Hello, investors. This is Manish Shah from UpperCrust Wealth PMS, covering the portfolio and market outlook for the month of August 2023. Hope you all are doing well. सबसे पहले तो मैं आप सबको बहुत बहुत बधाइयाँ दे रहा हूँ चंद्रयान 3 के सक्सेसफुल सॉफ्ट लॉन्च के लिए. What a feat. Really enjoyed, you can say, the hard work of ISRO and the other, staffs. Now, coming to the markets, in the past 1 month, Nifty was down close to 2%, and currently it's hovering around the levels of 19,400. The fall in Nifty was majorly led by BFSI, as the sector was down by 4.5%. Along with that, the banks and the other sector weighing the headline index down included auto, FMCG, and oil and gas. Apart from these sectors, all green sectors were IT, pharma, healthcare, metal, energy, and consumption. They were mostly the outperformers. The continuous winning streak of Nifty from last few months was broken thanks to the surge in inflation in the month of July. Inflation rose to 7.44% during the month, up sharply from 4.87% in June, putting it at its highest level since April 2022. The rise in inflation, though, was expected. However, it rose above the consensus estimate. The sudden rise was accounted to the vegetable prices, as we saw tomato prices reaching 200 per kg in some parts of the countries. FIs also in the month turned net sellers on Indian markets after 5 consecutive months of buying, selling close to USD 1.31 billion for the month. DIIs were, on the other hand, were net buyers with buying value close to around 1.11 billion. It seemed the domestic institution did see some value after the dip in the Nifty. The earnings season concluded for Q1 FY24, where India Inc. posted a good show riding on domestic revival. The earning report was overall good, and domestic focused companies did better and export oriented sectors continued to struggle. Going ahead, outlook looks promising as the festive season is set to kick in, but one cannot ignore the resurgence of inflation, as it could spoil the party for both earnings as well as equity markets. Let's look at some macro outlook. As we mentioned earlier, the big macro event in the past month was the surge in the inflation thanks to the vegetable prices. Despite the sharp rise in inflation, RBI in the August monetary policy meeting did not change the interest rates. Both repo and reverse repo stayed the same. However, RBI raised its inflation forecast to 5.4% from 5.1% earlier. Gross GST collection crossed 1.6 lakh crore mark for the fifth time since the inception of the GST. It grew 11% YOY. The buoyancy in GST collections is continuous. This trend indicates increasing formalization in the economy. The month was not good for rupee, as it slid 1.32% and closed at the levels of 83.1. The downturn can be attributed to rising crude oil prices. As the imports become expensive, it is bound to have a rippling effects. The macro environment is now eyeing towards the next RBI meeting, which is scheduled in October. When RBI will raise the rates to address the inflation, or will it hold to not to spoil the upcoming festive season, remains to be seen. Let's look at the global outlook. The global scenario of inflation is bit on the positive side as opposed to the India inflation. The global inflation is showing the signs of ease. The supply chain pressure is also trending downwards, which in turn is helping the inflation to remain in check. The increasing expectation of the much awaited soft landing of the US economy has seemed to have helped a rally in the US stock markets in the recent months. The consensus is now stronger than ever that the Fed is likely to avoid the crash in the economy as well as avoid the recession. On the Asia front, the Chinese economic growth continue to trend downwards, where the whole world is fighting with the inflation. The Chinese economy is surfing through the deflation. This might not be a good news for the overall global demand, as China is not only contributes in manufacturing but all in the consumption as well. Let's talk about the UpperCrust Wealth PMS portfolio performance. The UpperCrust PMS portfolio for the month of August was down by 1.89% in the past month, where the benchmark index was down close to 0.89%. It underperformed the benchmark by 1%. Compared to the benchmark, our portfolio was more or less flat. On a calendar year basis, we have outperformed the index by 2%. The same can be said about the performance since the fund inception, where we have outperformed the benchmark by generating a huge alpha of around 5.5%. Our top holdings are as follows: Hindustan Aeronautics around 12.5%, Tube Investments around 10%, Carborundum around 8.5%, Musgao Docks around 7.5%, Grindwell Norton around 6.3%. We continue to believe in our sector preference of aerospace and defense. We believe the sector preference will help us in performing the broader market. So that's all from Manish, you can say UpperCrust Wealth Fund. This is Manish Shah signing off. Thank you. Thanks a lot.